Hello, everybody, and welcome to Open Circle. My name is Pat Flynn. I'm here joined by two other amazing team members who are going to help us understand more about what's working in community today. Beyond that, first of all, just make sure that you can find the chat. If you're watching this on YouTube Live, say hello, tell us where you are from. We can see the chat. We will answer questions more toward the end. However, I do want to also welcome our other team members here. We got Matt and Jay as well. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves really quick in case people don't know who you are. Matt, let's start with you.
Awesome. Hey, everyone. I'm Matt. I'm Pat's business partner. I lead the business on the co-CEO side of things, and just grateful to be here talking about community. It's been a major part of our business model going forward.
Definitely. Jay.
Hey, I'm Jay. I lead our community experience team here at SPI. We have an incredibly talented team with Jillian and Tony and Known. Everything that touches the SPI community, we oversee, including our SPI Pro membership, our course communities, our live course experiences, and even the audience-driven summit that we've been building up towards 3 weeks from today, which is happening super fast. I'll put a link in the chat if anyone's not already registered for that. It's free. It'll be awesome. But yeah, that's me.
Thank you. And let us know if you came from the Circle Summit, if you're watching that because of that, or perhaps you were a part of our community and you got interested in building communities. This is going to be really fun. So again, my name's Pat. We got Matt here and Jay, and we all have a lot to do with what's happening with what's called SPI Pro. SPI Pro was launched last year, and it is a premium membership community, but it's much more than that. I think a lot of people throw around that word membership or community, and it's just like, okay, cool, a recurring income situation where we can bring our audience in and we make money every single month and people can talk with each other, right? But it's so much more than that, and that's exactly where I want to start. So really quick, Jay, I want you to take the lead on this because I know this is really important, and whenever anybody comes to you and says, cool, I want to start a community, this is always what you present them with, and that's this question right here. What's the purpose of your community? We'll start there and then we'll get into some nuances, details. How do we keep people engaged, onboarding, all that kind of stuff. But where do you want to go with this question specifically first?
Yeah, when Pat and Matt and I were talking about this open circle session, and we're talking about what should we be really focused on, I said, well, we should talk a lot about onboarding because there's a lot tactically there to share that people always enjoy hearing about. But what I want to preemptively say before we get to onboarding is the most important thing you can do to have successful onboarding is to have really clear expectations with people who are joining your community or membership about why they are joining. Because what a lot of creators do is they see the technology to have a community exists. I have an audience. If I smash these two things together, I'm going to have some magic, and now I'm going to have a community. And it's just not that simple, because people will fill in the blanks of what they think your community is about if you don't tell them explicitly, this is what this community is here to do. You need to have a very clear purpose so that they know coming in what to expect and what success looks like. Otherwise, you're going to be playing catch up to say, how do I make sure that people are getting value out of this, that I'm having success with my members? When you really define it up front, here's the purpose of this community. Here's what we're going to achieve together, or the transformation you are going to have because of this, or the value that you're going to receive because of this community, then it's going to be difficult for you to know if you're being successful or not. So I'd love to hear actually in the chat, if you guys want to share, what you think the purpose of your community is. I'd love to see that and workshop it a little bit with you so that we have a good sense of what you guys are trying to achieve, but also it's good exercise.
I'm trying to get a new camera up too. Mine keeps coming in and out, so I apologize. But Jay, why don't you tell us if somebody asks you, okay, Jay, well, what's the purpose of SPI Pro? How would you define that?
The purpose of SPI Pro is to improve your online business by learning from other online business owners. That's the way that I would put that, because by virtue of being an entrepreneur, by being an online business owner, there's no perfect blueprint for you, because if there was, then your business probably wouldn't be that valuable. Someone's already doing it. And so as much as we create really great content that can be enjoyed by a lot of people, there is a level of personalization that we can't do from a pure content standpoint. We need to create a space where you can communicate with each other, you can share the nuance of your business and learn from one another. And we do that with our community forum, with our live sessions, with our AMAs that you do in the community, Pat. That is how we help entrepreneurs who are a little bit further along on their journey continue to grow their business.
Matt, I'd love for you to speak to the purpose of SPI Pro as well, to hopefully wrap people's head around what we do here. And also, Jay, I know you're reading the comments right now to read some of what we're getting from the community here, and you can sort of feed off of that after Matt's answer. But Matt, you and I had the initial idea to create SPI Pro a while back, and I'd love for you to tell us how we kind of took those initial ideas and really turned them into something real. What did that actually look like as far as a process of creating this community from scratch, really?
Yeah, it was born from a very sincere and very clear vision that we needed to create a force field around all of the distractions that just emanate on the internet and as a part of digital life for those members that wanted to join us on the inside, where we could have a safer, richer conversation about online business. And then that bleeds into Jay's wonderful emphasis about learning from each other and being able to foster ultimately what is a private network. So when we think about social media, when we think about public networks, those are still really valuable, but there's different use cases and reasons and motivations to gather and connect and talk, right? On Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram, where have you. But the caliber and nature and depth of conversations that we wanted to stimulate and help be brokers of and champions for, required a safe, measured, controlled, private environment. So that was the initial ember, right, of the vision that has now been born and into this beautiful thing that we love and care about, which is SPI Pro.
Yeah, it's actually taking front and center of what our entire business is eventually going to become, it seems, because people are enjoying the community so much. And the feedback that we've been getting from it has been just absolutely incredible. It is not a content play. I think that's the big thing that I really wanted to come in with the community, which was like, people aren't wanting more content necessarily, right? And if you have content in your community, and I saw on the poll here, which is really interesting, it's almost split 50-50, people who have created communities before, people who have not, which is pretty cool. Thank you for answering that, by the way. We'll put a few more polls up during the chat here as we go. If there's content in there, that's okay. But just content to add content because people want content is not the right answer, right? If there's specific content, guidance from one place to another, from where they're at now to transformation, similar to a course, but perhaps with that community element on top of it, that's where that can make sense. But for our audience specifically, we knew through conversation and through chatting that community or content was the last thing they wanted. They wanted networking. They wanted to be pushed. They wanted connection, to feel heard. And like Matt said, a safe space for all this. Jay, what's your reaction to the chat and some of what we're seeing in there?
I'm seeing a lot of people talk about, being an aggregator of a certain type of person to connect with each other, encourage one another, share resources, which actually brings me to something I wanted to share. Pat, you mind if I share my screen?
No, please do.
The important thing about community to understand is that inherently it's a peer-to-peer network. If you think about typically the way that these relationships worked, you have a creator oftentimes who builds an audience because they're sharing an idea, but the relationships from creator to those individuals is one-to-one many times. But by virtue of doing that for a long enough period of time, you kind of curate a specific type of person. You're a curator of people who care about your ideas, but there's still a direct relationship to you only. And so the magic of being a community builder is connecting those nodes and allowing them to connect with each other without having to go through you as the center. And like Pat said, these peer-to-peer networks are not a broadcast channel. You can share broadcast messages, but that should not be how you're thinking about leveraging the community. It should be for the good of the community if you do that, and how they can connect with one another. A lot of that value is generated by other members, and the community itself is in service to those nodes, all those people around you as a creator. Everything that you do to make that community great and vibrant should be in service of those people and the connections that you're creating between them.
That's so good. I'm reading a comment from Ellen here who says, yes, this is exactly what I'm trying to get across with my membership. I flat out told people that if they're looking for me for more content or all the content, they've got it wrong. Thank you for that perspective, Ellen. And I love this because that last sort of picture there that you shared almost looked like a like the nucleus is the community with all the electrons and the atoms, like everything working cohesively together, right? Which is very different from this sort of top-down situation that a lot of us creators have on the platforms that we have. And yes, it does feel like community on those platforms sometimes, but Matt, why is it important for us to take the communities that we're building on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, and LinkedIn, elsewhere? There's group platforms there too. Why should we think about something like Circle, for example, to build a space of this community elsewhere that's outside of those platforms?
The heart of that is the ownership aspect, right? So when we think about, the external platforms, if you want to think of it in that way, again, there's value, there's use case to be there, to have presence, but that's for amplification, it's for discovery, it's for important reasons, business reasons and audience oriented, just creator reasons to show up there. But those are likely different than the ultimate purpose or reason to nurture a sense of community that you can control and have ownership of, that won't be taken away from you, or that in some way in a future state, maybe there's a disadvantageous update to some algorithm, right? And then your ability to connect and be seen and be heard by your audience is compromised in that way. So, that's, I think, at the center point, Pat, around the value to try to invite people through these more external networks into a richer, closer, more integrated private community that you have more control and ownership over. And if I can go one degree further to kind of harken back, Jay, to your beautiful illustrations there, I think what a lot of creators are finding, especially in 2021, looking at next year, is that they can sometimes be the chief bottleneck or obstacle in their own progress and growth. So when, Jay, you don't have to put your slides back up, but like if for the folks watching can just even remember from 60 seconds ago, like in that model where it's like just the creator, like then like it's on you to continue to nurture and foster and connect and grow. And that's exhausting, or at least it can be. And when you're online for a year, 2, 3, 5, a decade, and Pat and I are getting close to working together for a decade next year, which is bananas. Like there's real scalability problems. There's real like energy management problems, right? And these are things that we have to be intentional in terms of talking about and solving for on the creator side and on the business side, because we want to continue to show up and serve our audiences and our communities. And if we burn out or don't think about extensibility with the choices that we're making, then we potentially get ourselves into problems later.
Thank you, Matt. And we'll talk more about a lot of this stuff. And the team here and I, we were discussing, there's no way we could share like every bit of thing we've picked up along the way in just this 1.5 hour stream here. We'd love to continue to do these open circle moments with you for free over time. Is that something that you would all be interested in, sort of just as a content creator who's thinking about creating a community, or maybe you're already leading a community, just having access to a peer group, like a community of community creators, if you will. If that's something you're interested in, we may continue to do this maybe monthly or something and share our latest insights and be here to answer questions for you. We'd love to potentially do that for you. So thank you for the feedback. We will also talk a little bit about marketing. I can imagine an open circle just about marketing our communities, but I do want to speak to the fact, Jay, you were talking about how important that purpose is and what it is for and what it's not for. How do we relay that to a community who thinks that maybe they're signing up for something, but it's not what it is? Like, what are the best ways to position our membership when we are having conversations and presenting this, maybe on a webinar, maybe on a podcast, how do we sell it? Like, what's the positioning?
Think of it as any other product or service that you've ever marketed. Like, you understand or begin to understand the pain point that people are having, and you position your product or service or solution as a solution to that problem. Same with a community. Fundamentally, you need to think about this as a product that people can really engage with and find solutions to. I even go so far sometimes as to say, look, think of this as a jobs to be done framework. What is the job that somebody is coming to your community to do for them? Like, what are they hiring, quote unquote, your community to do for them in their life or business? And why is that better than the existing alternatives? Like, that's the way that you need to think about this and frame it. And just be very direct. When you start to learn who your customers are, who your users are, who your members are, you understand the problems they face every day, and you can empathize with them and speak to them and say, listen, I know that you often feel lonely as a business owner And I know that there aren't a lot of answers out there for you that are very specific to your situation because your situation is unique. And so the best way to solve those problems is to actually learn from other business owners, surround yourself with other business owners. And that's a difficult thing to achieve for a lot of people. And so we can be this curator of other business owners that you can meet and learn from. That's what the community that we have, SPI Pro, is all about.
Just so y'all know, we're not here to sell you into SPI Pro, although Jay's doing a very good job of that right now. And I know some of you will be interested in it. I'll have a link for you at the end, but this is not what it's about. We're here to serve you, and we are learning as we go, and we want to share as we go too. So let's move on to the next step. Okay, so we found the purpose. We understand how we might be able to position this. Let's talk about the first time we launched this. There were a number of people here. 57% said yes, they've have a membership or community, and 42% no. Either way, if it's your first time launching a premium membership, for example, or even a non-premium, we hear about this thing called the beta launch, right? Or the founders launch. Matt, I know you're very familiar with this from like a software products perspective, but I think in general, launching in a way where it's somewhat limited in some fashion to bring a certain set of group of people in first makes sense. Can you speak deeper into that with relation to building a community? How do we go about launching it, but in a smart way?
To embrace constraints in a lot of different ways. So the idea of having a beta group, and there's different labels for that idea, is to give us space and grace to learn and listen to that first group in a way that we can reasonably handle and manage that, the volume of feedback that we might get, that we can then engage on that, through myself and Jay, and eventually we hired Jillian into the team, right? So that we don't mismanage expectations, so that we're not overshooting that promise from the get-go and sort of trip over our shoelaces from the starting blocks, right? So by putting some constraints in place that are real, to be very clear, like I'm not advocating for artificial constraints.
What do you mean by constraints?
So 500 founding members was sort of our threshold, right, for SPI Pro. Different
that was relative to our email list, and we're a big brand, so 500 in our case was kind of
it was
rather small comparatively.
Yeah, I think is a fair assessment. Right?
I'm just saying that because there are some people who can successfully launch a membership with 10 people.
Right now. Heck yes. So great kind of qualification there. So, the sizing here is relative to like your brand and pre-existing audience. We could have easily gone, for thousands and thousands, but we made the choice to constrain that so that our beta group felt loved, felt appreciated, that we could stimulate, again, to kind of tie some themes together already, this private peer-to-peer network effect, so that we could then broker introductions. We could start to see cohorts, of ideas and niches forming within our own community. And then we could react. We had the time, the energy, and the space to be able to, react and stimulate further, build. We have an Airtable database of our members so that we can help like foster some of these groups. So not to get into too much of like the technical weeds or the software stuff, but it was to have that space where we could actually show up in the way that we were promising.
Yeah. Constraints are definitely a huge part of when you launch for the first time. What are we going to say yes to having available? And what are we going to wait till later to have available, right? We want to launch with an MVC, if you will, a minimum viable community, or Circle, or again, whatever platform you choose to use. We highly recommend Circle, by the way. Big fans. But when you launch, saying no to certain things and being okay with that, and expressing the fact that, hey, this founders group, you're going to get first to access, you're going to feel loved, you're going to feel special, and you're going to grow as the community grows, and we're going to lean on you to help shape what this becomes. That was very much a part of our situation with SPI Pro. Yes, you can offer maybe a discount, sort of founder's price, if you will. And again, we'll save the deeper pricing and product launch type of strategies for another open circle. So I have your email. I'll let you know when those come out, and I'll give you an option to opt out if you don't want to hear those anymore, since you're on the email list. But the founders group is so special because you can definitely recognize them as the people who have really created this community. One thing that we love that we do in Circle is we actually have a little badge or a name tag situation where you can see who is a founding member. You can see who came in during the last quarter or the last session that we opened people in, and people can connect with each other if they're a part of that cohort or group. So a lot to discuss there, but I think the founding launch gives you some grace to not go or have to go so huge right up front, and make people feel special who want to be a part of it and are motivated to help you turn it into what it can ultimately become. And big shout out and thankful for all the SPI Pro members who might be watching this. Thank you for helping us build something that can then in turn help you too. And that's really what a community is about. Okay. I want to go to Jay now, because Jay, when we were on the Circle Summit together, you dropped some amazing, amazing strategies and ideas as far as onboarding. And I saw a number of people get excited when we just mentioned that word. Can you define for everybody here first, what is onboarding? Why is it so important? And take it from there. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, think about any community that you're in right now. Some of them you've been in for longer than others. And the ones that you've been in the longest, you probably feel very comfortable with how that community operates, how you operate within that community, how you can help people, where you put your energy. These are all things that you come to learn about a community, but you probably did that through time and experience. And so onboarding is really the process of getting somebody to the point of being really comfortable within the community, their role within it, how to interact with it, how to engage with it. And doing that quickly. So let's see. I could pull up some slides if you wanted, Pat, but I actually had something, if you don't mind me going back just a quick step when we're talking about the beta launch.
Yeah.
We threw around the term beta and founding members as if they were kind of the same thing. Mm-hmm. But for our community and for a lot of communities, it's actually helpful to bring in a very small number of people that are very close to you to kick the tires and try things out and give you feedback on the space before you do like the launch to new
so
people.
Like an alpha launch, essentially.
Yeah, because if you think about, like, let's say you're throwing a party at your house, or someone else is throwing a party. Let's do that. Someone's throwing a party and you're going to that. When you show up, if you're the first person there, it's a little awkward for a minute. Like you're waiting for other people to get there. Otherwise, like, you are the party, and it's kind of high pressure. So if you do this alpha launch or the beta before the founding member launch, mm-hmm. then you can bring some people in and start to get the party in motion and have some things in progress. So when people drop in, it's exciting and they're joining something that is alive and moving, and there's content for them to interact with and to meet other people. I think that's a good thing.
You're right. I totally forgot we did that. We did that, and it was so remember, founding group for us, we wanted 500. This group that came in, the alpha group, what was it, like 20 or so? Like very small amount, just to fill in a little bit here and there. Where do you find these people? How do you collect the alpha members, if you will?
I would look really close to you and even use it as a way to acknowledge and appreciate people who are close to you, who have supported you, or maybe they're your best customers, maybe they're your best clients, and say, hey, I'm starting this new thing. You're the first one to know about it. I would really love some feedback on it and for you to give it a shot and look at it. Maybe you give that to them free of charge. Maybe you give it to them at a steep discount, just to get them in there and start to populate the space, and for you to get feedback on it from other people, so that when you really go out to the rest of your community and invite them into this, it can be successful. I mean, testing things like onboarding, like we're about to talk about. But Matt, you really led the charge on finding some of our alpha members. So anything you want to add?
A lot of echoing of what you've already highlighted. I think finding the folks that are very close to you, that are almost kind of know your brand as well as you do, I think is a really smart standpoint or starting point. Because implicit within that also, hopefully at least, is the level of trust you have that they're going to tell you what you need to hear and not just what you want to hear. So you want to have alphas that will be honest, if not brutally honest with you. You want them to find the major flaws, either technical flaws and or just like the gaps in your thinking that you have built into your community, right? And we had those problems, and we surfaced some of these things. And what's so magical about things like community and how we can build these on platforms like Circle these days is actually how rapidly we can embrace that feedback and close those feedback loops. That's the magic of then like the alphas playing that energy set into then the founding group. And then you just keep compounding that from one cohort to the next. Or at least that's our model, which, sorry to jump ahead, Pat, but maybe we'll get into.
Yeah. To that point, we open quarterly. to bring large groups of people in and have them feel like almost like a class together, if you will, a cohort. You don't have to do it that way. You can keep it open all the time. And again, we'll reserve time for those things perhaps in a later open circle, because honestly, I'm having a ton of fun just having a space for us to discuss this and to have other people here too. And the comments and feedback, for example, Sandy here says, feeling blessed to learn all this before I get my alpha members and founding members. So this is awesome. Like, I know a lot of you are going to create communities soon. Who here is excited about creating your community and is getting some valuable information here? Let me know in the chat as we move on and back to Jay to talk about this very important thing that often gets overlooked, which is onboarding. And Jay, when you were with us in the Circle Summit, you gave some incredible analogies. I don't know if you're going back there, but I would welcome them back because people really resonated with that.
Sure, for sure. Here, let me share my screen again. I want to kind of bring you guys back to a seminal question, which is, why do people join communities in the first place? I think it's really important to understand this if you're going to launch a community and hope that people come along and join. And I've been thinking about this a lot, and I've broken it down to what I think are 3 core reasons. One is human connection. We are social people. We will always have a hunger and an interest in connecting with other human beings. I've been watching a lot of Survivor lately, and it really shows you that, like, even stripped away of everything else, you are there and are able to interact with people and find common ground. People who would never meet each other in real life, find common ground and communicate because we're social people. And over time, as we become more civilized, we've created these gridded, isolating structures of society to remove a lot of the human connection that we feel day to day. So it's really important to have more ways to find that connection, and online is a great way to do that. Secondly, a lot of people join communities to experience transformation. They are someone today. They want to be someone else tomorrow, or a different version of themselves, or an actualized version of themselves. And a great example of this that I go back to time and time again is gyms or workout communities. You literally can see physical transformation in yourself when you join a fitness community and put in the effort. And then third, this isn't something that people really explicitly, consciously realize, but a lot of people stick around in communities because they find a sense of identity within that community. I first saw it during the 2020 election when Andrew Yang was campaigning, and people who supported Andrew Yang started putting the blue cap in their Twitter bio, just to signal to people that this is something that I identify with. This is something that tells you about me and helps me better understand myself. We see it with a lot of cohort-based courses. On Deck is a great example of it. People identify so deeply with the experience of On Deck and the people they meet there, they begin to identify themselves as an On Deck fellow. They'll put it in their Twitter bio. Similar to people who go through Ship 30 for 30, an online cohort-based course that uses an emoji of a tugboat. They will put that on their name in their bio to show I'm a part of this community, just to signal to other people who may be passing by who identify similarly, hey, I'm like you, we might get along. A lot of us have a lot of self-discovery that we can do, and communities help accelerate that. I can go deeper on that, but if you guys
I was deep into listening to you because it's just you're on the team and I'm learning. I'm like, dude, this is so good. It is incredible. Just the idea that people can come together and learn from each other, and we're creating the spaces for that. And the power of this is when you become the person who steps forward to offer these spaces, to facilitate these interactions, to create these connections. And some people, of course, are going to get into these groups and be able to connect with others on their own. Other people might need a little bit of a push or a space to do that. This is why we've created within SPI Pro the ability for people to connect into little sort of like mini pods or mastermind groups. Magic really happens, right? And I think that when we all think of the most amazing things that have happened in our own lives, it's because of the people we've surrounded ourselves with, not because we had some random self-discovery alone. At least, me, most of my self-discoveries when I'm alone are like random stupid human tricks as an only child that I figured out when I was a kid. That's about it. But anyway, this is so good. The chat's loving it. This is great. Where do you want to go from here, Jay?
Can I do a quick insert before?
Yeah,
Jay?
Please.
Oh yeah, please go, Matt.
Just quick expansion on that. In part, how I see the effectiveness and the magic of this is that it's it's born from real world experiences that I think a lot of us have had through a lot of our lives. When we think about academics, we think about, our experiences through school as groups, right? Some of us have gone to college and we graduate as a class. Like these constructs are actually, potentially conditioned, right, through life experiences in the real world, right? That then when translated into a digital format, they carry that same level of resonance, right? Which is, I think, that magic. And we see this even in media and really successful stories like Harry Potter, massive fan. We think about the sorting into the different houses, right?
Yeah.
So these are the same sorts of organizational paradigms that I think, you could draw out of any example, which are super cool and nerdy and effective.
Would there be any legal reason not to use the house names in Harry Potter as your own house names in your own community?
Great question for a lawyer.
I'm just wondering. We'll have to have a lawyer come on Open Circle. Like, that's the cool thing. We can even invite some other experts on, and then I can get that specific question answered. Cool. Do you want to keep going, Jay? Or because I can
I'll
pivot.
keep trucking.
Okay, keep trucking.
I'll keep
please.
trucking. I've got some onboarding stuff here that I'll share with you guys, but I feel like some of this foundational stuff is really important so you understand why the way I think about onboarding is the way that it is. Starting with kind of a philosophy around community, which is actually just a human philosophy, which is people move towards pleasure, they move away from pain. So your experience with your community needs to be a gratifying experience. When I put effort into engaging with the community, I need to feel gratified that I did that. And I'm using that word very, very intentionally and specifically because it literally means pleasure, especially when gained from the satisfaction of a desire. So why do people join your community? They want transformation. They want human connection. They want to find a better sense of identity. So if that's their belief for why they're joining your community, or they believe in the purpose that you've put forward, that is their desire. They need to feel like they are achieving that desire when they engage with the community, or they're going to stop coming. So great communities are made from great community experiences. It's why the team here at SPI is called the Community Experience Team, which Matt named very presciently, I think, because it's really about the experience that somebody has, satisfying someone's desire for human connection or transformation or finding a sense of identity. It's not about the platform. It's not about the tools. It can be any platform. We love Circle, but people will go out of their way, quote unquote, to engage in a gratifying experience. They will go somewhere that is not Facebook if the experience of that platform is good when they engage with it. So if you want to, have a gratifying online community, I think that you should really look at and model from some successful offline communities like the CrossFit community, or maybe it's your local meetup, which I used to attend all the time. I used to go to a lot of these, and I would say, why were those things successful? And it starts with a clear purpose, a clear reason that you joined, like we said. Then we move into this onboarding experience. And then we stick around because participating after that experience is gratifying. It's something we appreciate doing. It's something we get a lot out of. So I'll hold right there as I move forward to some of the onboarding stuff. But Pat, Matt, anything you want to add?
I'm thinking about the in-person experiences that I have as well. When I go to a card shop and I'm playing Pokemon, right? I come in there, I feel welcome. People are like, hey, Pat, like, welcome back. Are you playing in the tournament today? Like, things like that are so small. Yet when we're building our online communities, we leave almost every single question unanswered in our Facebook group sometimes, and we expect other people to go and answer them for us. And it doesn't mirror that experience that we have in person. So you have your own version of a local meetup or a CrossFit gym, or you have your own version of that you could pull from and then bring into your own community. And the cool thing about this is the tool is just the canvas. You get to create whatever experiences you want. And we'll share, more toward the end, the different kinds of within Circle community experiences we're offering. But I think, personally, the most important experience is that first impression. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Matt, do you have anything further to add to that before?
And that's actually, you teed me up unknowingly quite well, because when you get into second and third and fourth impressions, sometimes there'll be a little bit of a miss. You'll experiment with something. So what I love about some of these qualities, Jay, that you were emphasizing there, playing into the sense of gratitude and the sense of, propelling people toward a pleasurable future state, there is implicitly an element of forgiveness there. So like when you make a mistake, when you try an experiment in a community, and it doesn't go quite right, or, you don't show up for something right on time, like they'll forgive you because of these things that you've invested in through that peer-to-peer network, and with those community members. You don't have to be spot on, pristine, polished all the time. And because that's life, isn't it? Like when we think about gathering in person in our family groups, in our family community circles, there's a grittiness to life. And I think that that's also a part of the realism and why these things are hopeful and true, is because we can begin to model some of these real human experiences and qualities, if we have the right intentions in our digital communities.
Thank you, Matt. That's awesome. Also, please hook us up with a thumbs up if you're enjoying what you're seeing right now. It really helps just with the feedback and understanding, and we can compare certain topics against each other based on that. And Jay, you're knocking it out of the park. Thank you. You got a lot of great comments. I mean, this is why you are the Community Experience Director here at SPI, and we appreciate you for that. I'm also seeing a question I want to address before you dive into onboarding, because you can't onboard anybody if there's nobody to onboard. So what does a person do if they're wanting to create a community, they can envision it in their future, but they don't see the steps to actually like get people? Is it a, you got to build that audience first kind of thing? Or how would you sort of respond to, this is Justin, in fact, that brought this up. And thank you for that, Justin.
Yes and no. I think a lot of people look at the world of online community and they start thinking in big numbers, and you just really don't need to. Like community, as I said, is about peer-to-peer connections. How many people does it take to have a peer-to-peer connection that doesn't involve you? 2, and so you can have a very small community. The first community I built was 5 people plus me to start. And then 3 months later, it was 16 people, 15 people plus me, and bringing them into that community was a very manual, direct, one-to-one relationship where I went to them and said, I'm building this. I'm starting this thing. Based on what I know about you, I think you're going to enjoy it. Would you trust me in taking you on this journey? And they said yes. And I said, okay, great. And you build person by person, brick by brick, step by step. And it doesn't need to be this huge, like giant content strategy so that I can have hundreds of people looking at my stuff so that I can get 10 people to join my community. Like just start with the 10 people. Go find 10 people close to you and say, I'm creating this and it's for people like you. And I think you would enjoy it. And would you trust me to give it a shot?
Perfect answer. Thank you. Sometimes we get so jaded when we hear about these stories and the news talking about a brand new community and there's thousands of people and they're making all this money. It's like kind of sometimes deflating, but that's them. They're on a different timeline. You cannot play the comparison game, right? The comparison game you play is how many members was I able to onboard this time versus last time? How is the experience improving from the last time? How is onboarding getting better? Speaking of, let's get into onboarding and talk about how do we make that first impression really, really great for our new members.
Yes.
Somebody said Jay must be really great at reading bedtime stories, says Mark. You do have a good voice.
I'm not. I'm actually, I actually don't know how to read. Never learned. Here is again, one of my favorite ideas here, which is fitness communities. We can learn so much from them. And specifically, I want you to think about CrossFit. When you join a CrossFit gym or a CrossFit community, what happens? I want to break this down from the lens of onboarding. The first thing that happens is you get shown around the space, the physical space of the gym. You get shown corner to corner, the whole perimeter, all the machines. Here is what you need to know about this space. Along the way, you're going to be introduced to other people who are in that space. You're going to pass by people. They're going to say, by the way, this is Rick. He's been here for 5 years. He's an animal. He's here every week. He's the earliest one in the gym. He's the last one to leave. And Rick will probably very warmly welcome you because if he's been here for 5 years, he loves this place and he wants this place to be successful too. You get trained on the tools, the machines, the equipment, so that you feel confident and safe knowing how to use that machinery so you don't hurt yourself in this world, in this example, but also so that you're not too intimidated to try. You need to be confident enough to try to engage so you get the success and the transformation that you want. And this is all probably happening while you have a friend or a partner or a mentor right next to you who might have been the person that brought you to the gym in the first place. If you did show up alone, I bet there is someone on staff there that's going to take it upon themselves to do this for you. But a lot of times you're brought into the space by someone who's already a part of it. And that happens in online community as well. And soon, if you do engage with this community, with this space, with this experience, you will start to see physical transformation, which is just going to reinforce that this is worthwhile. It's that gratifying experience I was talking about. It's going to make you feel like, wow, this is a really good choice, and I want to keep doing this. And you might even just change the way you think about yourself. You might start to self-identify as a CrossFitter or somebody who really loves CrossFit. You might talk about it a lot. You might become the person who is advocating to your other friends who are not a part of the gym yet. You really got to get into this and just come with me. I'll show you around the space. Somebody did it for me. I'll pay it forward. And it works that way. So this all works because you're seeing like these are the elements of just great onboarding. There's connection built into the experience. You start to see transformation, and it might even get you to start identifying with that space.
Beautiful. I'm taking some of the questions and writing them down for later. They don't necessarily relate to onboarding, and that's where I want to sort of stay right now. But for me, the most important part of onboarding is making people feel like they're not there by themselves, right? That there's somebody there to welcome them. So what are some of the things that we do specifically in SPI Pro to ensure, to ensure that people feel like they're there with other people, and these bullet points here that you have, like, can you go over specific examples that we use to make them feel that way?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you join SPI Pro, you're put into an onboarding process that is multi-channel, meaning that you're going to be like, as you're stepping through the software, there will be a next step for you on screen. But if you get distracted or you leave that screen, we've also started an email sequence to talk you through what you should do next. So when you join, we walk you through like, hey, here's how you set up your account, username, password. Great. Here's how you get into the community forum. Once you're in, you have a set of spaces, and I actually have some photos here.
Perfect.
You're greeted by a set of spaces in the Start Here space, literally named Start Here. So there's no question as to where should I start. And they're numbered and ordered to help walk you through the next steps. In Pat's first post here, to read this first post, you have a personal video from Pat that he recorded to tell you, again, affirm what is that we're doing here. It's really important in your onboarding process to remind people early and often what it is that our purpose is and what we're seeking to achieve, so that when we have a question of like, now what, that's at least the start of an answer. And actually, before I show more screens, I'll go back here. The goal of your onboarding process should be, first and foremost, again, remind them why they're here. What is the purpose that we're going to achieve together? What is it that we're trying to transform? You want them to feel comfortable all along the way. Not that you can't avoid some awkwardness or uncertainty. It's just that you should anticipate it and address it, call it out. And then you really want to answer this question of now what, until they have some sort of magic moment where interacting with your community really shows them like this purpose that we're connected by, this transformation that I'm here to try to achieve. I feel confident that this is the place that's going to do it for me. Some sort of magic moment for us at SPI, because our value proposition, our value of joining SPI Pro is about connecting and learning from other members. We are really trying to get you to connect with another member as quickly as possible through your process of onboarding, which is another reason why we do this cohorted 4 times per year membership model, because when people join, we can then host right after they join a kickoff call where we invite all 100 plus people who joined onto the Zoom call to meet us and meet each other. We just hosted one of these earlier this week, actually. And what I love about it, and Tony on our team does such a great job of doing this, the first thing he does on that kickoff call is he invites people on that call to share their pets if they're around. Yeah. He says, if you have a furry one, a loved fur child around you, pick them up, put them on camera, and we'll introduce them. And he will spotlight people as they're sitting here with their dog, their cat, and talk to them and say, hey, who are we meeting here? And instead of the pressure of like, hey, tell us about you, tell us everything about you, and be really vulnerable and open yourself up, it's like, who's your cat? And, and people's faces light up and they can't wait to share who that is. And at the same time, you're having this very human experience where you're seeing their workspace, you're seeing their home, you're starting to get some context clues as to who this person is by seeing their space, hearing from them, meeting them, learning about their dog. This is a magical moment of like, wow, that person is like me. They have a business owner, but they also have a pet, they have a family, they have a home, they have a life outside of business. And it's a huge part of our community too, is we recognize our members are fully faceted, like multidimensional human beings, and business is a part of that. But usually business is in service to like the overall life we're trying to build. And we want to help people feel that, so they really feel like these are my people. And we do that shortly after they join. And then you really want to get them on a road to transformation, on a pathway, so that this success you're trying to give them feels attainable and that they are in the right direction.
That's really, I'm imagining now, based on the comments, all the new communities are going to be sharing their pets with each other. It's going to be so awesome. Matt, I know you have to bail soon. Do you have any final words about this onboarding process before you go? And then Jay and I will take it from there. And you'll be back with us on the next. We're going to do another one. We'll do another open circle because this is so much fun, and we'll do it again, and we'll make it even bigger, and bring even more community people here, because I think that a lot of people are like, well, what are we going to learn here exactly? We're here to serve you. We're here to serve you. We hope you are being served, and we're not done yet. But Matt, any final words before you have to go?
Two, thank you. One, just around everything Jay is teaching here on onboarding and in cohorts, is that then it becomes a really useful rallying cry and fun way to get back together. So I'm thinking about our founding members and having spoken about that. And like, we just hosted an event at the 1-year anniversary earlier this summer, because we launched SPI Pro in the summer of 2020.
Yeah.
And it was an anniversary mark. It's like, hey, like, let's bring the founders back in a very like private event just for those founding members to celebrate all of the things, their growth, their success, their transformation, all these things. So, there's lots of really fun, valuable ways to kind of keep reinvesting in this notion of cohorting and togetherness, and self-identification, right? And then the second, which Pat is probably a pitch to, a future on Circle, is when we do onboarding right, and when we architect these communities around these concepts and themes that we're talking about, what's inherently built in, at least from a business standpoint, is retention. Like when we're really thoughtful about capturing and fostering the focus and the love and the relationships, right, that form, this is integral to then keeping people around for the long haul. And should you choose, you don't have to, but should you choose to make your community a paid membership model like we have, then like that's a very intentional strategic calibration you need to think through at some point around how long someone will stick around. That's churn. How soon might they churn out, and what is your churn rate month to month? And I'm proud to say that ours is remarkably low. So I know that's a future focused topic, Pat, probably beyond the bounds of today, but it's a really exciting thing to think about as community builders and business builders when we're in this and kind of centering in this space around fostering, private relationships and connections.
Thank you, Matt. Everybody say bye to Matt. Matt's got another obligation, but thank you for being here, Matt. We appreciate you. While you're here, and hit that thumbs up button below the video. I saw a lot of thumbs up in the chat, which was cool too. But I meant like the thumbs up that YouTube gives you to help with the algorithm a little bit, even though technically now that I'm thinking about it, this is unlisted because it's just for you for signing up and registering. So anyway, thank you for that. A lot of great ideas. A lot of people really loving what you're saying, Jay, and what Matt's saying. I think for me, on the retention thing, right? Like if it is a paid community, it is a business, right? You have to also remember this is a business, and you have to make money in order to better serve and go lean even more into those who you're serving. And that can be tough for some people. We'll save that for another open circle to go really into the business aspects of this. But I think the mindset approach is always similar to the things that I always say about money. And that is, your earnings are a byproduct of how well you serve your audience, right? So this idea of the 1-year anniversary, right? It's not, okay, let's do a 1-year anniversary party for everybody who's about to get billed again so that they will stay paying us. That will be the result of getting together with this cohort and celebrating their wins together, right? There's a very clear distinction, even though it's the same thing. Our approach to it comes across in how we frame it and how people feel about it. Do y'all understand that? There's a big difference there, right, Jay?
Yeah, totally. That is a really great point though, and something we'll talk about in a future open circle, I'm sure, if you're wondering like, how do I set up membership tiers and pricing and plans and things? If you have a monthly membership option, like we do, 12 times per year, your members are going to ask, am I getting value out of this? Am I getting enough value out of this? And you need to create an onboarding experience, just a community experience generally that's proving consistently 12 times a year, every month that, yeah, that is true. It's not a foregone conclusion though, that it needs to have a monthly option. You could just say, you know what? You can join once a year. I'm going to ask you to commit with me to give this a shot for a full year. And that's viable. You could do quarterly. All these are options, but I had something I wanted to add and I lost it. That's all right. Maybe it'll come back.
That's okay.
I know what it was. When we talk about this cohort where we have a whole a whole new member kickoff call where we have dozens of people join at once, it doesn't have to be that for you to make a magic moment right when somebody joins. I had a speaking experience in Alberta, which is far away from Columbus, Ohio. Alberta, Canada. It's quite a trip. And my only known thing on that trip going to Alberta was I'm going to have to speak. Shortly after getting to Alberta, actually before I even got on the plane, the leader of the conference sent me 3 email introductions to 3 other speakers who are going to be there. And they said, based on what we know about you, we think you're going to like communicating with these other people. And that was just this amazing magical experience that made the whole trip, the whole thing so worthwhile, because if any one of those conversations was good, that makes the trip worthwhile, but they're all great because it was curated. And you as the community leader, when somebody joins, you're going to learn about that person. You're also going to have some knowledge of the other members who are joining or already are in the community. And you have the opportunity to say, oh, wow, you have this business. You really should meet this person. You should meet Sharon. She does this also. And I think you guys would get along really well. It can be difficult for me coming into community to know who can I meet? And then for me to reach out to that person and say, hey, I think we should meet. There's a lot of friction there where you can make that introduction and say, hey, I'm just going to send a quick intro to the two of you because I really think you would get along. And that's awesome because you know what they're going to talk about when they start that conversation is, how did you find SPI Pro? How do you know Jay? How do you know Pat? They're going to talk about their point of common ground, which is the person who introduced them, which deepens their relationship to you. It builds a relationship for them. It's a magic moment that anyone could make no matter how big your community is.
How do you learn how to do that? You're right. And I'm remembering experiences where I've gone to places and it's always like an introduction that gets me feeling just, okay, I can like chill out now and I don't have to be nervous. And I think that's how a lot of people come into the community. Is this a matter of like, do we get to the point, I can imagine some people maybe going in their heads, or maybe a little bit more technical, like, okay, I'm going to run a survey or have people answer questions before they actually come in so that I can then match those who have like the similar qualities and anybody who scores 75%, you know, I'm going to play matchmaker in a more technical sense. Is that how to approach this, or how do you approach the idea of matchmaking within a community?
I think you can. I think it's maybe an aspirational state. It'll certainly help facilitate things at scale, but I would do it in an unscalable way first, because the easiest way to automate something is to do it in a non-automated way first. So you know what you're automating.
Agree.
And so, you know, keeping some sort of record yourself. I mean, our memories are actually pretty good, especially when it comes to like specialized words. So if you're going to naturally remember some bits of information about a lot of your members, it just happens for community builders and community managers. And it's going to be kind of easy, but if you don't have that kind of memory, then keep some sort of record. It could be a spreadsheet, could be an Airtable database. It could just be your member directory on your platform of choice where you know how to search for certain people. And on the whim, someone joins, they post something about their introduction. They say that they are a scrapbooker or they love scrapbooking. You might go into your member directory and search for the term scrapbook, see if anyone else mentions it in their bio and say, you should meet this person.
It's that easy. We don't have to make things so complicated, right? There are a million ways to make building a community and or membership complicated. And I think that, again, going down to the experience and starting and reverse engineering from there is really where the magic happens. And then you can add all those other things later. And I don't know if Jay, we're ready to start talking about the sort of things that we can add on after onboarding. But this slide here is so important, everybody. So this idea of now what, right? So
yeah,
the worst thing to offer somebody online, let alone in a membership or a community, is a dead end. So tell us what we do here, or what one could do to help people along once they come in.
Yeah, a dead end or infinite choice, which exists in our lives all the time.
True.
Also, like we need help taking the next step. So again, the goal of onboarding is to continue to feel more and more confident, more and more certain of my next step, so I can get to the point of realizing the value of this membership. So in your onboarding, when you set this up, literally walk through it as somebody coming to it new, and ask yourself critically, is it obvious what the person should do next at this step in the process? Just answer the question, now what, until they get to this magic moment of connecting with somebody or finding transformation, learning something. It might be that your community exists to help teach somebody something. So how do you make the pathway clear and efficient to getting to that point? It might be that you want them to do some sort of pre-work, or watch this video, watch this module, watch this set of videos. It might be, hey, set up your profile. It might be work through our onboarding checklist. I'm a big fan of this because that is answering the now what question a bunch of times. You can say like, hey, your next step is to work through the onboarding checklist. Here's how to download it. And it might have 10 steps on it. And that just tells me, here's what I need to do next. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know why I'm doing it. And that's going to get me to this next step. Code of conduct, read the code of conduct, take the virtual tour. If you think back to the CrossFit gym example we were talking about, when you get shown around the physical space, what does that look like online? I think it looks like a virtual tour, doing a screen capture, showing people, here's what the space looks like. Here's where to use this aspect, or why to use aspect, or how to use this aspect. Every time we put some sort of new feature or benefit inside of SPI Pro, we record a Loom screen capture video showing, here's how you use it. Because it's not enough just to say this exists. You have to teach people how to use the tools, or they'll hurt themselves. Download the mobile app if the community tool has a mobile app. Introduce yourself, attend our kickoff event. All of these are just answering the question, now what, now what, now what, until I have that magic moment, which for us is making a connection to somebody else. For you, it might be learning a specific skill. It might be completing some sort of task or some sort of challenge.
Halaku here says, I just moonwalked out of a paid community because there was nothing bumpkiss to do once I landed. I was disappointed. I just love the founder. And I think this speaks to everything Jay is saying here, which is, let's think of the experience a person has. The sale or the conversion, if you want to call it that, is actually the start. It's not the end. And that's very important to think about. Also, big congrats to Fum's Videos, who says, hey, Jay and Pat, it's Kathy Reagan Young, just coming off a great membership launch using Circle. So great. Congratulations to you. That's awesome. That's great. That's so cool.
Kathy is awesome. One of my favorite pros. We've been talking a lot over the last couple of months about her membership, and she's been very thoughtful, very intentional. And I'm so glad to hear, Kathy, that it was very successful for you.
Good for you. Good for you. I do want to, at some point, Jay, talk about some of the different kinds of events and things that we put into SPI Pro for how we keep people engaged over time. I don't know. So for those of you who are here, stick around for that, because that's going to be very important. Also, make sure you hit that subscribe button too. If you're here on YouTube, we have a lot of great videos that actually support those who are creating communities, especially on Circle. Big shout out to Mindy, who is in a lot of those tutorial videos for you. So what are we seeing here, Jay? What are we looking at?
Yeah, I'll talk about events here in a moment, but one last thing on the onboarding that I wanted to share with you guys, because a lot of creators do get to a point where they get somebody into the community and they introduce themselves, and that's where the moonwalking backwards starts, because they did that, and then the question of now what is not answered, and they introduce themselves, and they might not have had a great experience. So this is a shot inside of the SPI Academy, which is our free community for course students. Just to give you an example of when somebody lands here, the first thing they see is an announcement post from Pat welcoming them to the course. You might be watching this because you're planning on doing some sort of live coaching or cohort-based course. When somebody lands there, what do they do next? We have basically a welcome message here in our announcements channel from Pat saying, here's what you should do next. And I bold the part that are important for you to take action on. From here, head over to the bootcamp schedule and make sure you have saved our live sessions on your own calendar. That's the now what question. Our kickoff is May 17th. Then take a minute to introduce yourself here within the bootcamp. We can't wait to learn more about you. When we're really on it, we do both text and video. They cover basically the same ground. People learn and interact differently. So here we had a welcome video from Pat telling them the same things like, hey, here's what you need to know. Here's what comes next. And here's what you should do next. He's answering that now what question. And after this video, he says, go introduce yourself. Once they get into introduce themselves, that channel, the introductions channel, there's another welcome message showing you, hey, here is how you introduce yourself to get a good result. Please create a new post and let us know. Here are 4 prompts. We're literally saying like, here's the way to introduce yourself. What should we know about you? Why did you join this course? Why is creating an online course important to you? What is your biggest challenge? By the way, if you want to do an intro in video, you can do that too using loom.com. And then here's where we get a little extra savvy, but I really encourage you to do this also. There's a concept in community building called modeling, which means before a community member is taking the actions that they need to take to have success, you as the community builder should model what those actions are so they see what it looks like to engage here and what it means to be successful. So after Pat says, here's how to introduce yourself, I follow up and introduce myself in the manner that he recommended, including a video, because by showing myself on video, you can deepen your relationship with somebody viewing it much quicker because it's going beyond 2 dimensions to, again, seeing your space, hearing you, seeing you. It makes it more human. And it's also modeling behavior of, if you want to introduce yourself in video, here's what that looks like. And as a result, we see students introduce themselves on video then.
So cool.
And then we as a team will reinforce that this is a good way to introduce yourself by liking the post, by commenting and saying, oh my gosh, I love that you made a video introduction. So other people see that and they say, well, I can do that too. And they do that. We go so far as having a dedicated channel on our Slack that when somebody joins, we get a notification through Zapier that says, hey, this person just joined the academy. It links to their user profile, which we can click and send them a direct message and welcome them just personally. Say, hey, welcome. Please take this next step. Please introduce yourself to the community.
That's so ninja. I absolutely love that. It's so good.
Yeah. And I just wanted to flash back here to again say, like, here are the steps that we lay out in our onboarding. If you want to model after this, the read this first is like, here's what you should take your next steps. It's reaffirming the purpose, saying, here's what you should do next. Go through this space, read our community guidelines. Here's our new member kickoff, the first event that you should attend as a member of SPI Pro. Here's our new member challenge, which is actually a checklist, the community guidelines, the virtual tour, and then how to manage your membership.
Gorgeous.
All right, I'm out of slides, Pat.
And we didn't start with all that, right? We led up to that, right? And we're continuing to add more. We're continuing to increase the level of touch points and the experiences that people have. This isn't something that you need to build in totality right up front, but at a minimum, at least think about the now what's, so people aren't sitting wondering what to do. We don't want that to happen, right?
Yep, absolutely. I saw a question. Coach Constant says, I think I applied yesterday, but it seemed like it was closed. The next opportunity is a month away. Did I apply to something different? No, that is SPI Pro. And that is the cohorted process that we have, where we have 4 specific times per year when we allow new members to come in so that we can control that onboarding experience and make it really, really great. Something Pat and I have talked about is for people who came here to Open Circle, on the application, there is a form field that says, how did you hear about us? And if you select Open Circle, we're going to email those folks with that application or let them come in outside of that window, just because the timing didn't work out as perfectly as we would have liked. And you guys may be watching this and you might want to see our onboarding process. We certainly welcome that. We want you to stick around and be a great member of the community if you are pulled to apply, but we will give the opportunity to join outside of that membership window for folks joining Open Circle here today.
And if you just at least even wanted to see what the application process was like, you can go to smartpassiveincome.com/pro, which is where I'm at right now. I have a little video there. You can read about how we position this. You can read about what is offered inside and how we, hopefully invite some great people in. And if you click apply, you'll see that there's like a question or a list of questions that help us understand if you are the right person for this. And you don't have to have an application process. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit, Jay, but it's been really helpful to not filter out the wrong people, but really ensure that the people that are inside are able to all serve each other in a way. And I was really flip-flopping between, application or not. I do know that when people get the sort of, just like when you apply to college, you get like the you're in kind of message, like that's a big moment. And we hype that up, we make it an event for people. But might you have any thoughts on this idea of, should I run an application or not? Like I am leaving people out. We are leaving money on the table, to be honest, but I think that does so much more for who's inside the community, right?
Totally. The reason that communities are powerful is because it is a place where you can feel like I connect with and relate to these people. And that's from a direction of like shared interest. It's not what you look like, where you come from. It's we are here for the same purpose. So the application serves as a way for us to ensure that you are here for the right purpose and that this community is serving you in the way that you need it. So the biggest reason we have an application actually is because this community is a curation of online business owners with some experience. They need to be beyond the point of, I don't have an idea yet, but I want an online business, because that's just not the purpose of this community. The application helps us stick to that purpose and deliver on the promise to our members, which is, this is what this community is here for. If we didn't have that, it would basically remove the purpose from the community and just be a place for anybody to talk about anything, which isn't of value. That's not hard to find. You can go to the grocery store and have that experience. So the application is really about just making sure that we're delivering on the promise and making the experience that you want and the purpose for being there. And it is a bummer to let some people go. We strive so that when people don't pass the application, we say, here's why you didn't pass the application, and here are some steps you can take so that you can be a fit for the community the next time around. But it is something where we do leave money on the table in that way. But it's important because the community you're building will have staying power if you do a really good job of curating people who are there for the same reason, because that's where they're going to find value. That's why they're going to stick around. Otherwise, it's going to degrade.
Strong Single Mom Network here says, do you ever deny applications? All the time. In fact, most people who apply, I think, are denied. And it's for certain reasons with regards to like what Jay said, they're level within their journey of business right now. And what does that process look like? It's an email that goes out that is in a friendly manner saying, hey, you're not quite ready yet, and here's why. And we might have different emails depending on specific reasons based on some of their answers, but then we don't leave them hanging either. And Jay was mentioning that a little bit. We say, here are some things you can do to help you get to that point. And that always just shares, like, even though we are saying no, we're still wanting to help you. And this is positioning the community to be even stronger. And actually many people who get denied say, this is exactly the push I needed. Thank you so much. And now I have some direction. I've had some people apply, Jay, I don't know if you know this, but some people applied and reached out to me, going through the application process, stopping because they said, you know what, this is too much. Like, I don't want to apply. This is too much work. It's not that much work, by the way. I'm like, okay, well, you're probably not qualified if you can't fill out an application, and that's not the kind of person we want. So it serves several purposes.
Yep, it is. I know communities that use an application and accept everybody, but the application itself is a filtering mechanism to say, do you have the stick-to-itiveness to even complete an application? Because if not, you're probably not going to put the effort into being an upstanding, helpful, communal member of this community. So
you want to answer
a pure filtering.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jay. We have, let's see, we have 20 minutes. I do want to touch maybe for 10 minutes this question from Ascended Presence, and then we can talk a little bit about some of the fun events that we do, just touching on them lightly, and we can save that for the next time. I think that would be a fun one to bring Jillian in, since she manages a lot of those events and experiences, and we can give her a heads up about that. So we'll talk more about that deeply later, touch on it lightly here. But this question from Ascended Presence, and then we'll get into questions from the chat real quick to finish off and end at the half-hour mark. But what are your thoughts on combining different people with different interests into one community? Is that advisable, or could that potentially, because it becomes just like the grocery store, we could have any conversation with anybody, is that maybe not going to be as strong as it could be?
This is going to seem a little meta, but
okay,
as long as there is a purpose for them all being there, sure. Like that purpose might be, I want to be around diverse viewpoints, but by having that shared purpose, that is still a shared purpose. So there will need to be a shared reason why everybody is there for it to make sense. We serve a very diverse audience. Business owners. Today in office hours, one of our new members joined, and he is a cellist teaching other cellists how to communicate in a group setting because they've spent 15 years learning how to be a cellist alone. Crazy. I would have never thought that's going to be a member of SPI Pro. We have a woman who teaches people how to play pickleball. Seemingly, those people are not in the same world. Why should they be in the same community? And it's because they're building an online business. And at the core, they have courses, they have memberships, they have content. And that's what they're here to discuss. So they can be very diverse for a lot of reasons, but there needs to be a tie that binds. That is a reason to bring them in.
Beautiful. Another question from Coach Constance from earlier. Membership versus community, is we kind of use them interchangeably sometimes, but there are sort of some defining things related to that. Do you have any thoughts on the difference, and does that even matter?
I do. I have strong opinions on this because I have come to think about them very distinctly. To me, a community is a group of people with a shared interest. A membership is like the product offering that might have more value propositions than just the peer-to-peer connectivity of the community. SPI Pro is a membership because yes, the community is there, but you also get access to all of our workshops. You get access to our templates. You get the premium podcast feed. These are things that are not community specific, but are part of your membership.
Very clear. Thank you for that. Okay. Let's talk about some of the events that we do that we can maybe go more deeply into next time. We can maybe just go back and forth a couple each. I know that I very much enjoy the AMAs, or the Ask Me Anythings. If you've been a part of Reddit, you might know about these, where for a specific certain amount of time, you basically are there on that platform as the creator, as the expert, and people can just ask you questions and sort of, yes, in real time, but it's not like a Zoom call like this right now. It's more asynchronous. In fact, that it's the fact that it's like text and whatnot. And I've experimented with answering via Loom videos, which just was technically not working at the time. I might try that again because I like to talk and share answers, but people want to read the answers. So anyway, the Ask Me Anythings, which are monthly with me for 2 hours, I get maybe 60 to 100 questions during that time. I'm batch process banging through them. And what's cool is people see the other questions that other people are asking too, and they might get answers to questions they didn't know they had themselves. And then it positions us as, sort of a space to have access to me, which isn't like I'm not in there 24 hours a day, but that's the time to ask your question, right? And it's there, and it's known that it's coming every month so that, you have a reason to stick around. So AMAs with experts and myself included is really fun. How about you, Jay? What's one thing that you love that we do in there?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on the AMA too. What makes the asynchronous nature of that really powerful is if you were doing that AMA live, it's great because people can communicate with you, but you can only listen to one person at a time. So you can't field as many questions as you can when people can all be typing their questions simultaneously. You can answer so many more questions in that way. I am super biased, but I like the weekly office hours that I host. And every new member that joins, I tell them like, hey, I would love to meet you at office hours, because every week it's an hour on my calendar. Pat, you've been doing this for years with your course students. Very similar model where it's like, come in, ask questions. I don't pretend to be an expert on everything, but because our community is all experienced business owners, oftentimes an answer that I might not have, someone else sitting there has a very credible experience that they can share. And it's a really great way. We've gotten to a point now, 4 months in or so, where about half the people that come just come because they want to hear from other people and see what they're up to and learn from them without having an active question. So that's a really magical part.
I like that. And I think this speaks to how do we not be overwhelmed by the community, which somebody had asked earlier. And a lot of that is, giving your time to your people, but having a specific space in time to do that. I think that's where you start to create boundaries around things so that you can actually stay sane. because I know some people who have communities who've gotten burned out very quickly because they go all in on it for a month and they're in there 8 hours a day and then they can't spend any more time because they've burnt out and they're just sick of it. Versus every week during this time, you get access to Jay. Every month during this time, you get a 2-hour text-based AMA with Pat. And then we have experts come in every once in a while to share based on what people are asking for, which are pretty fun. I'll do one more and you do one more, and then we'll answer some questions and we'll wrap up here. The challenges, we do monthly challenges, and some of them are big challenges, some of them are small challenges, and they've been some of the most fun things ever. In fact, we did a challenge last year called the Smart Tank, kind of like the Shark Tank, but smarter. And we asked people to create a 60-second video. Wow. A 60-second video, which is a sexy thing, pitching your business, and to really challenge people and said, just turn the camera on, no fancy editing, just one shot, take it and talk about your business. And we had a little contest and we had a little giveaway. And Maria, who is in the plant space, won, and she got a spot on the SPI podcast, and that was pretty fun. And that's just kind of a fun little bonus, but people got to know each other through that challenge. People who were afraid of video felt safe to do it there and get feedback and improve. And then I know some people who've been using those videos in their sales pitches now in their business and in their email. It's been really fun. And then we have small challenges, like last month's was the Say No challenge. Pick one thing in your life that you will now say no to, that is just you're bothering you and it's taking up time that you don't need. And we've had some really good responses with that too, which is really fun. So Freudian slip. Yes, garage gym. Jay, your turn.
Yeah, the other one that I'll highlight, and I would love to bring Jill on the next Open Circle to talk about this more in depth, is our town hall. And that's a quarterly thing that we also host after new members join, where once a quarter we bring the team in and we talk about like changes to the membership, things that we've added, things that we've improved, things that are coming. It's kind of like a behind the scenes, like state of the membership, where we can talk about how we're making it better for our members and ask for feedback and hear opinions. It's the first place that we unveil new things a lot of times. And we try to make it fun too. We actually try to host those in the evenings for the majority of members. And we say like, hey, come hang out, relax with us. This is going to be casual. It's a lot of fun though, because that is something that we can hold up and say, if you are busy, which all of our members are, they're all business owners, come to this. This is the one event that you should really make time for to join us, to make sure that you understand what's going on with the membership and the community.
Love it. Yes. And I agree. I think Jillian should come on the next one. If you're watching this, you're getting value and you'd like to come to the next Open Circle, let us know in the chat. In the meantime, I do want to share a couple things with you. Number one, the platform we use is Circle. Want to give them a shout out. A lot of you are here from the Circle Summit. So big shout out to Circle for being a platform that we can trust and we love. And they're always innovating and updating things. And we have a great relationship with them. And if you need anything, like, you can come through us to ask them questions. If you want to go through our affiliate link, if you're going to get set up on Circle, smartpassiveincome.com/circle is our affiliate link. You can go through that to set up your community, get a free trial, and experiment and check it out and see what it's like. And that's super fun. And I know a lot of you are also interested in Pro. I saw some people saying that they were going to apply ASAP, which is really cool. If you are interested in that, head on over to smartpassiveincome.com/pro in case you're interested in joining our community of entrepreneurs who, as you could tell, it's just such a fun thing. And it's been so interesting, Jay, because like a year and 3 months ago, this wasn't a thing, right? A year and 3 months ago,
Crazy.
It was just an idea. Yeah. And now it's like, honestly, one of the most fulfilling things that we've done. So I'm so grateful, and so grateful for you, Jay, because you came on board to help us build this, and it's just become something bigger than I ever thought it could be. And here we are helping other people create their big thing. So that's awesome.
Yeah. And a year and 3 months ago is like, community years are kind of like dog years, where it feels like a lot longer, but it really takes that long for you to start to see some real culture developing within your community. And you have members who step forward and are like the protectors of the culture. They're also the mentors of the community, where like they care about the place so much, where they'll step up and do things on your behalf to welcome members and make it a welcoming place. Like, magic starts to happen somewhere around a year in. And so like, you really need to stick with it. And this is, again, another reason why onboarding is so important. You need to get people to stick around for months, if not a year, to really build the relationship with the space, not just you as the creator, with the space, and make it part of their life and something they really, truly appreciate deeply.
Yeah. For sure. And thank you all for the kind words. I do appreciate that. As a reminder, we do let people into Pro quarterly. However, if you're here watching Open Circle, it's just a a strong subset of people out there. If you found SPI Pro through Open Circle, we'll get in contact with you. Depending on the application process, we'll fast track you in there if that's something you're interested in. So thank you. Let's take a few more questions before we finish up here. We got 10 more minutes, Jay. This has been super fun. A question from Michelle here. How do you balance known/predictability and surprises to keep members excited and engaged? I think surprising is one of the best things you can do to keep people on their toes, excited, like, oh my gosh, this is why I'm here. But we also have to keep like a consistent rhythm going. So I'm curious your thoughts on that. I have a few things to share on that too.
Yeah, well, a perfect example is the challenge of the month, Pat, because we know members know that every month there's going to be a challenge. They don't know what that challenge is going to be. So when you rolled out this month, like, hey, we're doing Smart Tank round 2, that is surprise and exciting. There's some anticipation because we know that it's coming. And I think people do need some form of regularity. Our most successful events are the ones that are regular, like office hours, like the town hall, things that people can predict and anticipate. So do not underestimate the value of having some regularity. But just by virtue of being a space where a lot of the content and questions and conversations come from the community members and not you, there's a lot of serendipity and surprise built into community as a model.
Let's see. Other questions. Is there a specific tool you guys use for onboarding or SSO? Not exactly sure what SSO is.
Alex, I have an email in my inbox from you talking about this. And yes, so historically, we used MemberStack as the payment processor for our Circle community because Circle didn't offer that. We used MemberStack SSO so that when you joined with MemberStack, you could use that same login to get into Circle. Circle now has that natively built in. You can have a payment processor using Circle. You don't necessarily need a member management solution. They also have SSO with Teachable. So if you do have students in a Teachable course and you want to give them community access, they can sign into community using Teachable. I don't think you need to worry about any of that. Like these are all ideal state, making everything really smooth. I wouldn't get too hung up in the details. Definitely always be looking to improve it, but you can just go a really long way with just the off-the-shelf Circle technology. But I do also recommend having a email marketing tool. We use ConvertKit. We love ConvertKit. It's perfect for our purposes to use onboarding alongside the software. Like if you didn't complete your onboarding or you don't go physically into our community space in Circle, you'll still get emails from us reminding you that we're there and showing you what's going on. We have a digest that goes out every Friday with topics from the community. So an onboarding experience, I think, is multi-channel, email, and the platform itself.
Nice. Rafaela is asking about team, right? What's the minimum amount of team? I know a lot of people are solopreneurs and building a community can feel very overwhelming. I do want to talk about this next time more in depth. Maybe we have a 2-part next time where we talk about engaging events and things, as well as, building a team to help support this. But I think that, yeah, the approach in that, because, we're very grateful because we had Jay come on board and we were able to hire Jillian to help there, be a part of the community and make sure that, everybody's answers are coming in and people feel welcomed and such. And she's just become, like, everybody knows Jillian. Like, it's just so cool how she's become a part of what, like, part of the definition of what SPI Pro is. And she's always having their best interest at heart. For a absolute beginner, Jay, who knows they're going to need some sort of help, what is that help and where might they find it?
I just had a conversation about this with a member of Pro yesterday, actually, and I advised him that instead of immediately trying to hire a community manager, you should wear that hat at first so you can really learn and empathize with your community. And when it feels like, and enter into that with the word Pat used earlier, boundaries and expectations of your friend. But you can be, and I think should be, the first community manager of your community so that you really build the relationships, you help sell the culture, you identify where there are pain points and make things better. And if this is new to you, there are experts. Circle has them. They're called Circle experts. They're listed in their community that are consultants that'll help guide you. But I wouldn't immediately try to outsource the actual management activity. I would try to learn it either by doing or with an outside consultant, and then hire if you feel like you need to.
That's great. I love that advice. It's the same advice I give when people are like, I want to hire somebody to help edit my podcast. I'm like, okay, edit yourself first so that you know what it's like and you can empathize with those who you eventually hire, and you can have your own standard operating procedure that you can then give to somebody who can do it in the way that you still want to do. Because then, what if you hire somebody and then they end up leaving? Well, then you're just like, I don't even know what they are doing, and I have to come and fill in that role. It's going to be difficult. So and hire smart for sure. Tom asked a question about the best way to let people know about your community and get people, into it, essentially. I think things like what we're doing today, talking about the community just as an example of things, and talking about the people within the community. I think that if you have a podcast, for example, bring a community member on your show or talk about them and tell their hero story, make them the hero of the story. The community is a part of their journey of becoming that hero, and the guides within that community become what everybody else then will want to get access to, so they can be a hero of themselves. Very story brand Donald Miller. But I definitely think that all of us need to do more showcasing of the people who we are serving, because when you bring those stories out, it's not even selling. It's the best form of selling without even selling, right? And that's the way I like to market. Like, we could go deeper with retargeting ads and like all this other stuff that they talk about at like ClickFunnels. And I love ClickFunnels. I love those guys, by the way. But it's just like, no, I just like relationships, right? And let's just tell story and have those stories sell the community. Right, Jay?
And yeah. And I think, obviously when you launch your community, you're going to go through your channels and say, hey, this exists, and you can join if you want. And you'll probably continue to do that. But the best growth comes from within, because if your community members aren't so excited that they're telling other people about it, you probably need to improve the experience, because you're going to lose those people. And what's the point of pulling in new people if they're just going to churn right out? So you really need to focus on making the experience so good that your members are telling people about it, not selling it to their friends or anything, but it comes up in conversation when they say, oh, I just had this conversation last week in office hours inside of SPI Pro, or we just had this event in SPI Pro, or, something they learned. They're going to attribute it to your community, and that's going to do a lot of the growth for you. Yeah. And if you're not there yet, it is a high bar, but if you're not there yet, pulling in more people isn't going to be necessarily what you want, because you might lose them, and it's hard to get people to come back a second time. And so you want the first time to really stick.
That is very true. I'm remembering a conversation I had with somebody who I just like watched this conversation unfold, or they sent me a text message of it after, and they're like, hey, I'm working on my COTM this month, to their friend. They said that, and their friend was like, what's a COTM? Oh, sorry, it's challenge of the month. We do this thing in SPI Pro. And then they go, what's SPI Pro? And these like things come up because of the culture that we're creating and the language that we're creating, right? It's very like, we have our own specific language, and I think we could potentially go even further with that in the future. But it's very much like, I remember when I first heard of WOD, like, what's a WOD? And everybody's like, did you do the WOD today? And I'm like, what is that? And they're like, oh, it's workout of the day. If you're in CrossFit, like, that's just how we talk with each other. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then just like, again, it naturally comes up in conversation, which is really cool. Fum's video says, I personally cannot stop talking about SPI Pro. That's so cool. One last question here, and then we'll wrap up. And again, I want to say thank you, and thank you, Jay and Matt, who was here earlier, obviously. We just wanted to come together to chat community. And this is something that we're all deep into right now. We absolutely are passionate about. We are immersing ourselves into it. But as we often do at SPI, we don't want to just go it alone. We want to bring others along with the ride. And sometimes we do things well, and we want to share that. And sometimes we absolutely fail. And we're going to share those things too, and always help you in your journey as well. So we hope you enjoy this. The last question I want to answer here was with relation to the way that you bring people into the group, Jay. Some people are maybe paying members of the community. Other people may get access to the community through a different means. Maybe they joined a course and then get access to the community. How do we, I think it was Ari here, or Any, who says, what are your thoughts in allowing people who are part of the paid membership versus members who buy content a la carte into the same community? So do we bring them all into the same pool? Do we separate spaces out? I would worry if I was like a paid community member, seeing that there was like a back channel to come in that could have given me similar access. I don't know how I'd feel about that.
It's kind of a design question, because if there is a cheaper way of getting to the community, that information will become known and that will be the path. So you just have to ask yourself, like, am I creating a backdoor is a good way to put it. Am I creating an unfair path into this place? You can have multiple paths. You just want them to be fair and equal, all things considered. So sometimes, if I'm paying for a course and that course is $200 and you want to make community access an added benefit to that, and community generally is $20 per month, at some point it might be cheaper to go the course route, but the members probably aren't thinking about that if they're paying $20 a month right now. So it's really kind of doing that math and thinking about it in that way. And here's the thing also, we talked about the beta members, the people that we bring in maybe for free because they're really close to us. We want them to help get the community started. One, they're doing you a favor. So you're giving them access for free in that way. But you'll learn when you start your community, people you bring in for free aren't your best members, because we pay attention to what we pay for. And when we are literally invested in the community, we're going to invest more effort as well.
So true. Jay, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching Open Circle today. Closing this like it's a podcast or something. This was so much fun. We're going to do it again. We'll do it again. We'll send you an email. We'll let you know what the topics are, who's going to come on and join us, and we'll just keep this going for now. And we'll see how far it goes. But we appreciate you. smartpassiveincome.com/circle if you're ready to start your circle community, and smartpassiveincome.com/pro, and make sure to put in Open Circle in there so we know you came from there, and we can potentially fast track you in if you'd like to join. If not, no worries. We're here. Hope this was fun for you. This was fun for us. Jay, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everybody.
Appreciate you.